Hey everyone, this is Craig Dacey here with Craig Dacey Financial Coaching, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about EveryDollar. And I get a lot of questions from people with EveryDollar, and how do we use it if we don't get paid on a monthly basis? So, for example, if you get paid every 2 weeks, how can you use EveryDollar when your paydate's constantly changing? Sometimes it's hard to know what's coming out of what check, and really all EveryDollar gives you is a monthly plan, not necessarily a paycheck to paycheck type plan. So I've got a few ideas for you, some things you can do within EveryDollar to solve that problem for yourself. And then I'm also going to share at the end of this video an alternative, something else you can try in addition to this. But one thing you can do, so I have my mock February budget pulled up right here. And so it's, as you can see, it's not an EveryDollar budget yet, but let's just say you get paid every 2 weeks and these paychecks are $2,000 each. Well, what we need to do is you need to look at your calendar and decide what checks are coming, what check is going to cover the first half of the month, what check is going to cover the second half of the month. Because as you know, sometimes when you're paid every other week, you get paid like on the 27th of the month. And what are you going to do with that check? You got 3 or 4 days left in the month. Well, that is probably going to be the first check of the next month. So if you haven't figured that out yet, it's what I would really recommend doing is just opening your calendar, looking at your pay dates, and just marking down March check 1, March check 2, April check 1, April check 2, and start figuring out what checks are what. When you do this, if you're paid every 2 weeks, you're going to also realize you're going to have those jackpot months, which is what I call them, where you get 3 paychecks. Now, when you sit down to do those months, you do need to account for all 3 paychecks. So let's pretend that February, for some reason, was a jackpot month. Well, we're going to add in that 3rd paycheck here as well, and it's also going to be $2,000 because we want to make sure we account for any money coming in. So whatever it is, if it's a 3 paycheck month, this month we have $6,000 to budget. But most months are going to be those 2 paycheck months. So I'm going to delete this one, and we're going to stick to a regular month. Now, one thing you can do is I recommend marking your expenses and your checks based on what check they're going to come out of, if that makes sense. So paycheck 1, let's just say, let's put the date that it comes in. Let's say paycheck 1 comes in on the 5th. Okay. If that's the case, then that means 2 weeks later, this one's going to come in on the 19th. So paycheck 5, paycheck 19. They're now labeled for when they're going to come in. You can also just label them paycheck 1 and paycheck 2, whatever's easiest for you. But I want you to actually know when they're coming in and have a plan. So if they're coming in on the 5th and the 19th, well, look at your bills and what bills do you have that are going to be auto drafted or that are due before the 19th. Those are the ones that have to come out of paycheck 1, your paycheck on the 5th. So scrolling through, let's say the mortgage is one of them. Well, mark your mortgage 1. That means that that's coming out of your first paycheck. It has to. Okay? Let's also say that maybe your electric bill is due on the 11th or something, and so that has to come out. So you could put 1 or check 1 or something to mark that that's coming out of that. Now, while you're doing this, have a calculator open. See if I can shorten my window a little bit so we can fit both of them in the screen. So have a calculator open here, and with paycheck 1, I had, oh, not that much. I had $2,000. And now we've spent what, $1,100 on the mortgage. We've spent $100 on the electricity, so we have $800 left to budget still. Now we're going to scroll through anything else that has to be paid on that first half. Now, let's see if there's anything that would have to be, and let's just say that's it. Those are the only 2 things that are going to get pulled out, or maybe I don't know, cable is also one. So let's just add in cable is check 1. So come over here to the calculator, we'll subtract another 150. All right, so we have 650 left to budget. Now we're going to go through and we have 650 and we're going to see, okay, so if that's the case, now what do we need? We're going to need groceries, obviously, in that first half. So 2 things you can do here. What I recommend is if you're going to split it up, have 2 grocery items, grocery check 1 and grocery check 2. All right, so we have grocery check 1 and grocery check 2. So instead of obviously 500 coming out of check 1, we probably would split that in half. We're going to use that 250 of it to cover the first half of the month, 250 of it to cover the second half. So now we're going to come over here. We're going to deduct 250 from check one. Oh, that didn't work. We were at 650 minus 250. Much better. That looks a little more accurate. So we have 400 left to budget. So going again back through restaurants, same thing. I would probably recommend splitting that up into two checks. Restaurant 2. And we're going to split it in half. So 75, 75. That way you know when the next paycheck comes, okay, we get 75 more dollars to spend this month on restaurants. So we're going to minus 75. We're down to 325. All right, go back through, continue looking for anything else that you might need to include. If you're going to do pocket money, things like that, you might want to include any debt payments that are due. That's probably obviously something you probably should have done before we split up the groceries and things, but those are kind of a required one. But let's just say that if this person only had a car payment left, that's due in the second half, maybe they save it. So then we're going to go through and we want to use every dollar, so 325. So maybe some things we either pay early, we set aside for when they're due, but they are going to still come out of that first check. So we're going to continue to go through and make sure that all of these things are covered in this first check. Then you can go back through once we've used all of the first checks. So let me just kind of stick the rest of this 300 somewhere. So let's say miscellaneous is funded completely from the first check. So minus 50 puts us at 275. Let's say you fund pet care out of the first check. So now we're at 175. And I'm, let's just say most of maintenance, just to make things easy. So we'll just change this to 175. And there we go. Okay, so then, if I can spell it correctly, maintenance 2. And that one's going to be just 25 bucks. Now we go through and we fill out all of our second paycheck things. So anything else that's in there is going to be from the second paycheck. So I'm going to put 2,000 up here again, and I would go back through and I would start adding things in as paid for by the second paycheck. So whatever you see, repairs and tires, obviously oil and gas, half of it would probably come out of your first check, but you get the idea. So that's one way to do it. And then every month you just have to know when that check is coming in, when bills are due, and what's going to cover what. If you have a weird month where you're paid later and just a lot of bills fall on that first check and you don't have much left over for your restaurants, that just may mean you don't get to go eat out a lot at the beginning of the month, and maybe towards the end of the month is when you get to. Just that 1 month. Every month is different, but we need to plan ahead and we need to make sure we know what's going on. Now, one alternative to doing this is, first of all, if you're not an electronic person and you prefer just paper and pencil, you want a printable monthly budget that's just on paper, easy to look at, I have one here that is completely free. Just click the link in the show notes. You can grab it, download it to your computer, and it's all yours. It has a lot of ideas in here as well that may not be already generated in EveryDollar, but feel free to grab that. That's yours. Just again, there's a link in the details below the video. Another thing you can do is pull up an allocated spending plan. Now this is one that I got through Financial Peace University, which is Dave Ramsey's course. So this is one of the documents you can use there. So if you take an FPU, you have one. I have one that looks similar. If you would like me to send it to you, you can email me, info@craigdacey.com. I'm happy to send that to you as well. But the way this works is it's broken out by pay periods. So you write your pay dates. If you're paid weekly, this is one way to do it. And then you have all your items over here on the left, and you decide what's coming out of which paycheck. And you would write it in. It's going to tell you how much money you have left, and you plan each paycheck, just like we talked about with EveryDollar, but this one spreads it out into weekly payments, or if you are just twice a month, you just have to use 2 of these columns. But if you're interested in that, email me again. I'm happy to send it to you, and those documents are yours to have, okay? All right, guys, I hope you found this helpful. If you have questions, leave them in the comments, or again, drop me a line. I'm happy to help you when I can. if you're ready to get control of your finances, if you're ready to get on top of budgeting and eliminating debt and building savings, and you just kind of need that jump start, I have an incredibly affordable online course where I go really in depth with the how-tos of budgeting, what to do, how to maintain it, how to make it work for you. Not only that, but how to cut your spending while still living a lifestyle that works for you. So we also go into the best ways to not only eliminate debt, but stay away from debt for the future, how to build your savings, how to get out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle. If you're interested in that, again, I'll add that link to the details below. Just click the link. There's a free trial, no obligations. You check it out, take it, learn something. If you aren't a fan, you don't have to purchase. I won't hound you for your money. But if you do like it and you want to go through the full course, it's very affordable. So just take a look. I really encourage you to do that. All right. Thank you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one and happy budgeting.